Donnie Dunn reported to the police that he was the victim of a woman older than he who was stalking him. She had been following him at work and home, sending endless emails, and this had been going on for about 6 months. The officer, puzzled, asked Donnie why he hadn't taken action sooner. He recalled the first time he saw Martha Scott at the bar where he worked. The first feeling she evoked in him was pity. She was an overweight, middle-aged woman sitting at the bar, quietly crying. It turned out she had no money at all. To cheer her up, Donnie offered her a cup of tea. Martha's mood changed instantly. She told him she owned a law firm and several apartments. She also allegedly cooperates with many famous politicians. When Donnie made a joke, Martha laughed loudly. He couldn't stop wondering why she couldn't afford tea if everything she said was true. Once upon a time, Donnie had moved to London to become a comedian. But before he knew it, he was 30, stuck in a dead-end job, and living with his ex-girlfriend's mother in the outskirts of the city. Nevertheless, Donnie hadn't given up on his dream, but audiences clearly didn't appreciate his sense of humor. He felt like a failure. So when Martha saw in him the person he always dreamed of becoming, it flattered him. Martha began coming to the bar every day, each time with new makeup and a different dress. Donnie found it odd that Martha always tried to appear busy, even though she spent all her free time at the bar. Martha always ordered the same thing, Diet Cola with ice. Donnie would serve it to her on the house, but she never drank it, instead talking non-stop about her supposedly exciting life. Donnie found it amusing. Martha frequently showered him with compliments, admiring his looks. Everything about her intrigued Donnie. One day Martha invited him to celebrate her birthday with her. Donnie wasn't thrilled, and his lack of enthusiasm clearly upset Martha. Realizing she had likely never been popular with men and only observed the rich and famous through social media, Donnie unknowingly started complimenting her. On her 43rd birthday, Donnie told her how youthful she looked. When Martha suggested a celebratory picnic that weekend, he agreed. Martha was overjoyed, affectionately calling Donnie her baby reindeer and asking for his number. He didn't give it to her, simply asking her to name a time and place. For Donnie it was all just harmless joke, but Martha clearly thought otherwise. His colleagues started joking that she was his girlfriend. The situation became increasingly awkward. Donnie had hoped Martha would realize it was a joke, but she seemed to take it seriously. Then came the endless emails, about 80 a day. All of them were supposedly sent from an iPhone, though Martha clearly didn't own one. She had made serious preparations for the upcoming picnic, buying champagne, a blanket, a basket and more. Donnie tried to gently explain that picnics were a romantic activity and thus a bad idea. Martha instantly became upset, asking what friends usually did then. Donnie said the first thing that came to mind, drink coffee. Martha was happy to settle for that. Unable to come up with an excuse, Donnie reluctantly went to a cafe with her. Martha couldn't stop smiling and laughed loudly at all his jokes. He immediately made it clear that they could only be friends. But Martha hoped they could be friends with benefits. When the waitress came to take their order, Martha admitted she had no money. Donnie said he would pay for them both. When he asked how she got his email, Martha said she found it on a website. Donnie didn't like it when Martha mentioned his performance videos on the internet. He made her promise not to tell anyone at the bar about them. Donnie also shared that he had failed to achieve his dream of becoming a famous comedian. Martha held his hands in a gesture of support. Suddenly she began aggressively demanding that Donnie name his ex-girlfriends. Naturally it pissed him off, and he asked for the bill. Fortunately they lived on opposite sides of the city. Despite everything, Martha seemed happy. Donnie knew Martha wasn't the millionaire lawyer she claimed to be, but her behavior unsettled him. Who was this woman? To answer this question, Donnie decided to follow her. She lived in a shabby apartment and spent her evenings sending emails to him. This situation consumed Donnie's thoughts. During his next performance, the audience reacted sluggishly to his jokes as usual, while Martha laughed non-stop. Donnie was unpleasantly surprised by her presence but tried to turn the situation to his advantage. By making jokes about Martha, Donnie managed to earn the audience's applause. Martha was delighted to have the chance to please her idol. After the performance, Martha approached Donnie, praising his talent. Suddenly she gave him a tight hug. He didn't push her away because Martha gave him a sense of self-worth. However, everything changed when Martha confessed her love for him. Seeing Donnie's reaction, Martha began berating herself, repeating that she had ruined everything. He reassured her that everything was fine. Later, when Donnie received a friend request from Martha on Facebook, he browsed through her profile, which featured many photoshopped pictures of her with celebrities. In one of the photos Donnie saw himself. Googling the name Martha Scott, he discovered that she had once been a lawyer but was later sentenced to 4.5 years in prison for stalking a man. After reading the articles, Donnie was horrified. Nonetheless, after some hesitation, he accepted Martha's friend request. In hindsight, Donnie couldn't explain why he did it. Perhaps it was recklessness. But in any case, he never mustered the courage to unfriend Martha. Maybe she was just unhappy? Soon Martha began commenting on all of Donnie's photos, even the very first ones on his page. She also became jealous of his exes and left strange descriptions of his every move. Then messages from her started pouring in on Facebook. Donnie ignored them all. Today is his 6th date with Terry. He prefers to meet her at a bar on the outskirts of town. Some time ago he met Terry, a psychologist, on a trans dating website. Using the name Tony, he created a new identity for himself. Donnie despises himself for this but couldn't risk anyone finding out the truth. He never thought he would fall so deeply in love. Terry was so genuine, Donnie had never felt so good with anyone. On the other hand, he was afraid someone he knew might see them together. Meanwhile, Martha continued to stalk Donnie, becoming increasingly persistent. She made it clear she didn't like seeing him in photos with other women. Martha couldn't stand competition. Donnie was shocked to realize that Martha believed they were a couple. He stayed up all night wondering what would happen if Martha found out about Terry. Their meeting had to be prevented. Donnie decided to tell Terry everything because he completely trusted her. Terry advised him to go to the police, but Donnie still hoped the situation would resolve itself. After all, Terry didn't even know his real name or workplace. Every shift Martha waited for Donnie at the bar counter. This time he asked her to pay for her Coca-Cola, deciding to set clear boundaries between them immediately. Realizing that Donnie had no feelings for her, Martha burst into tears. He gently explained that it wasn't about her but her age. After all, when he wanted a big family, it would be an issue. Upset, Martha left. That evening she bombarded Donnie with emails, convincing him of her fertility. Now Martha came to the bar every morning 2 hours before opening and followed Donnie around, fantasizing aloud about their future wedding. Wherever Donnie went, Martha was already there. She even came up with names for the 3 children they could have together. The more Donnie distanced himself from Martha, the more obsessive she became. When he learned she was planning to attend his semifinal, Donnie panicked and asked Gregsy, the bar manager, to blacklist Martha as a customer. However, Gregsy refused, saying Martha was their walking joke bank. Moreover, Gino, a coworker, sent Martha a dirty message from Donnie's phone. This prompted him to call Jason, the comedy competition host, and ask to reschedule the semifinal. Later, Donnie met with Terry again, at another bar on the outskirts of town. They were having fun together, but at some point Donnie grew anxious, worrying that Terry might uncover the truth about his real identity. Of course, Terry couldn't help but notice the change in his demeanor. Donnie shared that he had tried to politely brush off Martha, which was why he told her he wanted to have children, but things only got worse. Terry believed that any reasonable person in Donnie's position would have gone to the police long ago. Since he hadn't, it was obvious he secretly enjoyed Martha's attention. After the bar, they took the metro to Terry's home. She noticed that his hands weren't rough enough for a construction worker, which Tony supposedly was. When Terry asked Donnie to kiss her right there and then, he panicked at the thought of public judgment and stepped out of the subway car, leaving Terry bewildered. Donnie felt like a coward, ignoring Terry's calls. Near his home, Martha was waiting for Donnie, expecting him to fulfill what he had promised in that very message. When Donnie rejected Martha yet again, she declared that if a man wasn't attracted to her, he must either be blind or simply not interested in women. Donnie decided he wasn't going to tolerate this any longer and started speaking harshly to her. But that didn't stop Martha, as she was convinced Donnie was obligated to marry her. Not wanting to listen to her nonsense any longer, Donnie headed home. However, Martha, undeterred by his insults, continued following him. At one point she pinned Donnie against a wall. Feeling his rapid heartbeat, she thought it was because of her. That same evening, Donnie blocked Martha on Facebook and took some time off work at the pub, hoping she'd grow tired of waiting for him there. Nonetheless, his fear lingered. Liz, Donnie's landlady, noticed something was troubling him. Of course, he didn't tell her the truth and lied, saying his girlfriend had dumped him on the way home. Donnie realized he could no longer ignore his problems and went to Terry to tell her the truth. Terry was very hurt but still agreed to listen to him. This time Donnie was honest, admitting it was easier for him to pretend to be someone else. However, Terry could no longer trust him and kicked him out of her house. He was devastated. To prove his sincerity to Terry, he changed his name and all his personal information on the dating website to his real ones. Today Liz threw a small party at her house, inviting old and new friends. When Martha, whom Liz introduced as Sheila, stepped out from another room, Donnie was horrified. When Donnie first moved to London, he lived with his girlfriend Keely at her mother Liz's house while they looked for a place of their own. But 2 weeks turned into a month into 6 months, and 6 months into a year, and so on. Eventually Keely dumped Donnie and moved out, leaving him to live with her mother. Shortly after that, Liz's eldest son passed away. Donnie's new life couldn't have started any worse. Since then, Liz had coped with her loss by treating Donnie as her son, taking care of him in every way. No matter how you looked at it, living with your ex's twice-divorced mother was a strange situation. Nevertheless, Donnie appreciated the positivity Liz radiated. And now Martha had barged into their lives, quickly earning Liz's trust. The entire time Martha kept casting playful glances at Donnie. The other guests had long since left. Of course Martha gladly accepted Liz's offer to spend the night. While Liz was preparing a bed, Donnie threatened Martha, saying that if she didn't stop her nonsense, he would call the police. The threat worked and she left. Donnie couldn't sleep all night from fear, knowing that Martha now knew where he lived and could stalk him here. He needed to go to the police, but Donnie decided to try talking to Martha again. However, she had disappeared. Could it really be that simply threatening her with the police was enough to get rid of her? It seemed too easy. When Donnie spotted Martha at a bus stop near his house, he quickly ducked, hoping to remain unnoticed. He no longer felt safe, even at home. Keely visited her mother's house and told Donnie that his girlfriend had been sending her threatening messages. He claimed Martha wasn't his girlfriend. But Keely didn't believe him and asked him to deal with it. Martha began coming to Donnie's house every day. When he left for work early in the morning, Martha was already waiting for him at the bus stop. When Donnie was coming home from work, she was sitting in the same spot. He didn't understand why she was doing this. Sometimes she even tried to enter the house. For the chance to see Donnie, Martha would patiently sit at the bus stop for 15 to 16 hours a day. But time passed, it started getting colder, and Martha changed. Now she just stared vacantly ahead. Donnie's compassion, the feeling that had started everything, stirred once again. One evening, noticing how cold Martha was, Donnie took her to her house out of pity, covered her with a blanket and made her hot tea. Afterward, Donnie tried to explain again that they were not a couple, but it didn't work. Realizing that Martha still believed he was her boyfriend, Donnie told her he wanted to break up. Upon hearing this, Martha started crying. To prevent her tears from turning into hysterics, Donnie said that now they could both remember their relationship as a fairy tale. It was the perfect moment to end it all. The next morning, looking out the window and not seeing Martha at the bus stop, Donnie felt a sense of relief. Before the semifinal, Jason explained the rules to the contestants. Donnie didn't expect that Terry would come to the performance, especially with her friends. This made him even more nervous. Waiting backstage for his turn, Donnie felt a growing panic as the audience laughed at the jokes of his competitors. And then Gleena, the host, announced that the next contestant on stage was Donnie Dunn. At first, due to panic, he acted foolishly, but then he got into character. Despite the specific nature of his humor, the audience laughed. Everything was going fine until Martha started singing. Up until that moment, Donnie hadn't noticed her in the audience. Martha claimed that Donnie was her ex-boyfriend. Of course, he denied this, joking that someone had forgotten to close the doors to the mental hospital. This angered Martha, and she started saying that Donnie was stalking her, always hanging around her house and sending her emails. To prove it, she showed a few people in the audience that very dirty message from his name. Security escorted Martha out. To save the situation, Donnie joked that he would never invite his mom to his performances again. But no one laughed. It was a disaster. Donnie didn't know what to do and didn't expect Terry to come to his dressing room. Terry intended to meet with Martha and as a psychologist convince her to stop the stalking, but Donnie knew that wouldn't work, and he was planning to take Terry out the back exit. Hearing Martha's voice, they both ran and decided to hide in a cafe. Donnie asked Terry to give him another chance. Despite her resentment, Terry stayed with him. Donnie still regretted the ruined performance. Terry mentioned that she had noticed Donnie had edited his profile on the dating site. Maybe that meant something. Suddenly Martha found them together, and she was clearly in an aggressive mood, insulting Terry in every way. At one point Terry couldn't take it anymore and said that she and Donnie were on a date. This was the last straw, and Martha attacked Terry, tearing out a clump of her hair and scratching her face. Donnie tried to pull Martha off, but he was outmatched by her in size and strength. In the end, the security guard and Donnie managed to pull Martha away from Terry. He shouted at Martha not to dare even look in his direction and that he wouldn't date her even in a nightmare. It was unbearable for Martha to hear all this. Terry was very frightened. Donnie felt sorry for what she'd been through. The next day, 6 months after meeting Martha, Donnie finally decided to report the stalking to the police. However, in his statement, he left out many details due to his past, which had deeply traumatized his psyche. 5 years ago, Donnie had come to the Edinburgh Festival. He had always dreamed of performing there, and the time had come when he decided to try his luck as a comedian. Donnie believed he should follow his dream, but reality turned out to be harsh. He wasn't the most talented comedian and became the target of ridicule from the audience. To distract himself, one evening Donnie went to a VIP bar to have a drink, where he met the successful screenwriter Darion O'Connor. They struck up a conversation, and Darion agreed to see what Donnie was capable of. This time the few audience members even laughed. After the performance, Darion said he liked it and left Donnie his business card. That was his first success. For the next few weeks Darion helped Donnie work on his scripts, and he started to get the hang of it. The audience grew bigger, and everyone truly started to love Donnie. He lived like a star, spending time with Darion in VIP bars, sipping cocktails and discussing shows until morning. Darion was different from everyone Donnie had known before. However, there was one but: Darion was addicted to substances. Hoping to become his co-writer, Donnie got sucked into it as well. But nothing lasts forever. When Darion suddenly left for London, Donnie's success quickly faded, and the whole of that wonderful time seemed like a dream. Soon after, Donnie enrolled in drama school in Oxford, where he met his future girlfriend Keely. However, he couldn't stop missing Darion, who had given him a sense of confidence and hope that his life would soon change. Now Donnie was back to being nobody, and it depressed him greatly. But one day Donnie received a call from Darion, and his happiness knew no bounds. Darion immediately suggested that they write a script together. Of course Donnie agreed without hesitation. When they met, they hugged like old friends. Darion's apartment looked cool. Donnie showed him the draft of his 60-page script. Darion asked him to summarize it briefly. Donnie did his best, but it was clear that Darion wasn't too interested. He suggested that Donnie try something to experience a high. Donnie just couldn't say no. They talked until evening. Casually Darion mentioned that his house was only for a select few. Fully trusting Darion, Donnie did everything he was offered. He was completely relaxed when Darion suggested getting closer. It left a deep trauma in Donnie's psyche, but apparently Darion was set on repeating the experience. The next time Donnie wasn't as happy to hear from Darion, but he still answered. When Darion promised Donnie that his script would be approved by a popular TV channel, all his doubts vanished. Donnie eagerly met with Darion, and their connection resumed. He was confident that success and millions would come soon, so he was willing to endure it all. They spent all weekends together, but every Monday Darion turned cold, sending harsh notes about the script by email and making him rewrite everything for free. Despite his relationship with Keely, Donnie kept returning to Darion, believing this was his path to success. Of course Keely didn't like this, although she didn't know the whole truth. But the girl understood that Darion was merely taking advantage of Donnie, making him work for free. To this day Donnie can't forget how at 25, he sat and watched 55-year-old Darion dance to an Amazonian jig. At that moment Donnie almost didn't realize anything, being under the influence of substances. But one clear thought entered his mind: this situation was wrong and dangerous. Donnie tried to escape Darion's house but the door was locked. He had a panic attack. Darion took advantage of his helplessness again. When Donnie woke up in the morning, he felt terrible, unlike Darion who had hardly consumed anything. Donnie would have liked to say that he ran away and never returned, but he stayed at Darion's for a few days. Later he met Keely with a bouquet of flowers, apologizing for his absence. The worst part was the uncertainty. Donnie didn't know what happened while he was unconscious. Maybe Darion never intended to advance his career, just using him. But the worst part was that Donnie stopped seeing intimacy in any form. Of course this upset Keely, and soon they broke up. Donnie's life became total chaos. When he was out on the street, it seemed like everyone knew what he had been through. This led to Donnie's insecurity. He dreamed only of one thing: making Darion suffer. This went on for months. Donnie sank deeper into depression, leading an immoral lifestyle. Alone with himself he cried. Darion had broken his life. But things began to improve gradually when Donnie found himself in the company of normal people. He wanted to forget all the filth from his past, but he had lost the ability to trust people and was afraid of close relationships, even friendships. This continued until Donnie met Terry. She was everything he had wanted, but Donnie couldn't stop feeling ashamed, thinking that he didn't deserve love. With the arrival of Martha, the embarrassment disappeared for some reason. It was she who made him feel confident again, so after going to the police, Donnie couldn't bear the thought that he was here because of her and not because of Darion. So when the officer asked Donnie why he hadn't reported the stalking earlier, he answered, "I don't know." In the end Donnie couldn't bring himself to tell the whole truth. After the attack on Terry, Martha was banned from entering the pub, but she kept coming back, threatening and insulting Donnie. Soon she invaded every sphere of his life, telling everyone on the street how he had traded her for an ugly woman. Wherever Donnie went, Martha was there, poisoning his life. He lost sleep, constantly wondering what else she might be capable of. Keely showed up at the house in the middle of the night because Martha had threw Coca-Cola in her face. What if next time it's acid? Liz had already realized that Martha wasn't who she claimed to be and that her name wasn't Sheila. Donnie admitted that this woman had been stalking him for 6 months. Liz had to ask him to move out. He moved in with 2 friends from drama school, believing it was a fresh start. But things turned out to be far from ideal, as these guys hosted parties almost every night. Donnie had to hide in his room. His hatred for Martha grew. Soon the colleagues found out that Donnie was performing in a comedy show. Of course Martha had a hand in this. They were sad for Donnie because his jokes weren't very funny. This in turn became a reason for workplace jokes. Donnie started spending more time at Terry's, who had forgiven him after the pub incident. They were getting closer. Donnie had what he had always dreamed of, a calm relationship. Of course it wasn't easy for Donnie to overcome his prejudices. Terry was understanding, unaware that it wasn't because she wasn't entirely a woman but because Donnie considered himself unworthy of love. After several failed attempts to get closer, Terry lost her spark. The fact that Donnie couldn't give her what would make them a complete couple made her insecure. Terry was also upset that Donnie hadn't gone to the police after Martha attacked her at the bar. Donnie wanted to, but his shame was still stronger. Nevertheless, he went to the police station and reported only the incident where Martha pinned him against the wall. At first the officer didn't see it as enough to press charges, but after checking the database, he confirmed that Martha had a history of similar offenses. Detective Joanna Culver spoke to Donnie, revealing that Martha had previously been prosecuted for stalking a police officer. Detective Culver assured him they would have a talk with Martha. The police intervention brought Donnie peace, a strange ominous peace. At some point he found himself realizing he missed Martha. Donnie couldn't understand why, since he didn't even like her. Sometimes he fantasized about being alone with her and giving in to wild passion. Meeting with Detective Culver again, Donnie learned that Martha had agreed to attend social adaptation courses. Clearly he was upset by how easily she took it all. Now Donnie has the option to pursue a restraining order, but does he truly want it? Terry on the other hand was happy about this turn of events. It seemed like they could breathe a sigh of relief and simply enjoy each other. Donnie's mother called him, but he didn't answer, wanting to devote the entire evening to Terry. Donnie didn't know that his parents thought he had been in an accident. Martha had told them so. Donnie realized that Martha had taken her stalking to a new level. Now she wasn't just targeting him but also his parents. She got Jerry's, Donnie's father, number by calling his office and pretending to be a client. Martha also called all of Jerry's colleagues, spreading nasty rumors about him. Donnie's mother, asked the son to explain who this woman was. He had to tell them most of the truth. Now they all hope the police will handle it. However, Donnie was horrified when he received a call from Martha. How did she get his phone number? Of course Duns immediately contacted the police. The officer advised Jerry and Elle to file a separate report on stalking. Donnie spent a week at his parents' place in Scotland, and throughout that time Martha kept calling. His father was hoarse from shouting, and his mother kept reassuring him. Since the police didn't seem to be of much help, Donnie decided to take matters into his own hands, feeling that Martha was about to do something terrible. He met with Martha, asking her to leave his family alone. Otherwise they couldn't be together. Martha was puzzled, thinking all along that everything between them was already over. Donnie specifically asked her to send him a dirty email so he would have evidence for the police. Martha said she would gladly describe all her desires in detail. Soon Donnie received the desired email, not expecting that Detective Culver would call him in for questioning. It turned out Martha had outsmarted him, recording the conversation when he asked her to send him the inappropriate email. At that moment time stood still for Donnie. What if Martha had recorded all their old conversations where he jokingly complimented her? It's still unknown, but Martha at least showed the police the email that Gregsy had sent her from Donnie's phone. But how could they prove it to the police? It all looked like a provocation. Right now Martha has the right to file a police report against Donnie, although she hasn't done so yet. Donnie couldn't believe it because he was the victim here. Suddenly he realized that Martha had known exactly what she was doing from the start. She was a professional stalker. Terry was outraged, not wanting to live in fear of stalking because of Donnie's foolishness. Terry was sure that he had initially liked the attention from Martha, and he unconsciously indulged her madness. As a result, Terry decided to break up with Donnie. He was devastated, finding only one upside to the situation. Things couldn't get worse. Or could it? The next day when Martha showed up at the bar again, Donnie was about to call the police, but Martha reminded him that he was on the police radar too. The threat worked. Donnie tried to ignore Martha, who poured herself a glass of water and sipped it through a straw. But when Martha started talking trash about him and his ex-girlfriend, Donnie eventually couldn't take it anymore and began telling the pub patrons that Martha had been charged with aggressive stalking. In a fit of rage, Martha smashed the glass into him. Donnie had to hit her back. She became hysterical, screaming that he would regret it. The staff barely managed to escort her out of the pub. Now Donnie certainly regrets ever offering Martha tea out of pity. In the house he rents with those two guys, strangers are always hanging around. There's always alcohol and substances. Despite everything, Donnie was determined to perform in the comedy show semifinals. However, inside he was a mess. The colleagues came to support him. Donnie was performing last. He stepped on stage, forced a smile on his face and started following the script. However, the audience didn't really appreciate his jokes. Even his colleagues couldn't bring themselves to laugh. Eventually Donnie's nerves gave out, and he started telling the story of his life in front of the audience, including what Darion had done to him. During this, Donnie couldn't hold back his tears. Donnie had dreamed of fame his whole life, believing it would help him drown out the pain he felt on the path to success, which he never truly achieved. Among other things, Donnie talked about how once out of pity, he had offered Martha tea, which ultimately ruined his life. He should have stopped it at the start, but Martha's attention flattered him. Now Donnie has no idea how this will end. Some of the audience members started leaving the hall, but Donnie didn't stop talking, revealing the story of his dramatic relationship with a transgender woman. He couldn't accept her unconditional love because of his self-hatred. Donnie hated himself far more than he loved her. Now Donnie feels that he has no more strength to run away from himself. After speaking out, he felt a sense of relief. Winning the competition no longer mattered to him. Someone in the audience secretly filmed the entire thing, and it went viral online. Donnie became a celebrity, receiving invitations to shows, radio interviews and more. He was so absorbed in his new life that he didn't immediately notice that Martha had stopped stalking him. It seemed like everything had settled down, but that continued until the next call from Martha, who somehow managed to get his new number. She began blackmailing him, threatening to tell his parents about the video. This happened at the most important time for Donnie's career. He decided to go to his parents in Scotland, unsure whether Martha was bluffing. In any case, it would be better if they heard the truth from him rather than from her. Donnie told them everything, hoping for their support. And he received it. His mother and father said they wouldn't love him any less, no matter what happened. They all hugged, unable to hold back their tears. Donnie felt that he had done the right thing. That night he slept for 12 hours, and the following days were spent with his parents in Scotland. He had never felt so light. When the parents saw him off to the train, he continued to feel a sense of peace. He dozed off, and when he woke up, he saw 50 voicemail messages from Martha on his phone. Arriving in London, Donnie went straight to the police station. The officer advised him to wait until Martha started sending him threats. Until then, the police couldn't do anything to help. In the following months, Donnie continued listening to the stream of voicemail messages from Martha. He saved every one of them. Martha was obsessed with Donnie, and he didn't understand why he had become the object of her obsession. One day, seeing Terry with another man, Donnie was deeply upset. In the meantime, he continued ignoring all of Martha's messages. When she started threatening his family again, Donnie realized that it was time to report her to the police. Martha was arrested the next day. At the trial, Donnie had mixed feelings because deep down, he felt sorry that Martha would no longer be in his life. When asked if she pleaded guilty, Martha tearfully said yes, calling Donnie baby reindeer. The court found Martha guilty. Seeing her cry, Donnie didn't know how to react. In the end, Martha was sentenced to 9 months in prison and was banned from getting near Donnie for 5 years. He felt empty inside. It seemed like life had lost its meaning. One day Keely decided to visit Donnie, worried about him. He invited her inside. Keely was shocked when she saw the huge collection of materials about Martha. Donnie explained that he just wanted to figure her out. Moreover, Donnie had quit his comedy career. Having gotten what he wanted, he realized it wasn't for him. Keely wanted Donnie to come back to her mother's house. It hurt her to see him like this. He decided to agree, understanding that it would be better that way. Liz was very happy to see Donnie back in her home. Every time he looked out the window, he secretly hoped to see Martha at the bus stop. Donnie found his old script, once written for Darion. He decided to overcome his fear and visit Darion. It was a very strange meeting. Darion confessed to Donnie that he had seen his video and thought it was very brave. Darion even offered Donnie to work together again, promising that this time it would be different. He agreed, not really knowing what guided him at that moment. Leaving Darion's house, he was on the verge of a panic attack. Donnie kept all the voice messages from Martha. Wandering down the street, he listened to them, then entered the first bar he found. After listening to another message from Martha, Donnie learned that she had given him the nickname Baby Reindeer because it reminded her of her favorite toy. It was the only good memory she had from her childhood. Listening to this, Donnie cried. Martha's life had been worthless, and in him, she had seen a light in the darkness. Donnie realized he had forgotten his wallet. Out of pity, the bartender gave him a drink, just as Donnie had once done for Martha. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel not to miss more exciting new products. Also, the authors will be pleased if you leave your opinion in the comments.